To us, magic sounds like this extraordinary thing, pulling a rabbit out of the hat, coming out of nowhere. But it's here, it's real, and the more that we are open to the unseen, to the energies of this world, to abundance and manifesting, to calling in and growing, the more we'll be able to call magic into our lives. Join me as I share stories, wisdom, and curiosity around connecting with your higher frequency, tapping into the synchronicities of the universe, and opening up to the unseen possibilities that this world has to offer. I am your host, Dayna Faye, and this is the Ordinary Magic Podcast. Hey everyone, it's Dayna here with Ordinary Magic. I have a solo episode for you today, and we are going to be talking about the fact that Pluto, the planet of transformation, death, and rebirth, is moving out of the sign of Capricorn for good into the sign of Aquarius for the next 20 years. So if you are listening to this before November 19th, happy last week of Pluto in Capricorn. And if you're listening to this afterwards, this episode is still super helpful because Pluto will be in Aquarius for another 20 years. I will be talking about how Pluto has shown up in the sign of Capricorn since it moved into there in 2008, and also what we can expect in the future with it in Aquarius. And I am reporting to you from a year of watching a million astrology videos. This feels kind of like the Super Bowl of astrology. Astrologers have been talking about Pluto moving into Aquarius for the last 2 years. It really kicked off in 2022 when the United States of America kicked off its Pluto return. And the planet of Pluto moves so slowly, it transits so slowly around the sun that it's considered a generational planet. For example, I was born in the 90s and Pluto was in Scorpio. And it stays there for, this time in Capricorn, it was around 16 years. It's going to be in Aquarius for around 20 years, give or take, when it retrogrades back and moves forward. But that's why it's such a big deal. And there's been so many of these events these past 4 years with Pluto shaking things up. And I know everyone's been feeling it. So I just want to explain kind of what's going on in this world from an astrology lens. At least for me, when maybe I'm giving in to some of the fear energy that we're feeling or the uncertainty, when astrology can explain it, to me, it feels like, okay, universe, okay, source, okay, creator, okay, God, thank you. You have our back. You're doing it on purpose. It's written in the cosmos. So let's keep on going here. I am going to continue to live in trust and hope and love. And it just reassures me when the astrology really matches up. So let's dive in. Like I said in the intro, Pluto, which is the planet of transformation and death and rebirth, is considered a generational planet because it moves very slowly around the sun and therefore stays in the same zodiac sign for quite a while. It has been in Capricorn since 2008. And the archetype of Capricorn in astrology embodies ambition, discipline, and mastery. It is the archetype of hard work and responsibility, building structures that can stand the test of time. Capricorn is also associated with themes of authority and tradition and climbing the metaphorical mountain towards success. People who have a lot of Capricorn energy are known for their resourcefulness and their determination to overcome obstacles, often taking on leadership roles and setting high standards for themselves and others. I love the sign of Capricorn, and a lot of people in my generation have multiple planets in that sign. In my birth chart, I have Saturn, Uranus, and Neptune. But when you bring Pluto into the transit of Capricorn, which Pluto represents this cycle of death and rebirth, it's a force that compels us to confront hidden truths, to face our deepest fears, and to transform areas of our life that feel stuck or stagnant. Pluto can also deal with the themes of power dynamics and control and the shadow self, the aspects of ourselves that are often repressed or denied. Pluto's energy is intense and deep. It often pushes us to let go of what no longer serves us, allowing us to rebuild and regenerate so that we can bring these two energies together. So we can bring this planet of Pluto and this archetype of Capricorn into the death and rebirth cycle. Pluto helps us break down some very Capricornian structures. And it kicked off in 2008 with the financial crash. And over the past 16 years, we've been really taking a look at what structures are helping us in society and what ones have not been built on such solid ground. What structures or businesses or governments need to have a makeover or to be completely transformed into something new that benefits everyone at the same time, as we're put through this boot camp of what needs to be dismantled and rebirth in our life in regards to Capricornian themes. And I know the United States of America is going through its own Pluto return, which is the point when Pluto returns to the exact position it was when we signed the Declaration of Independence, which was on July 4th, 1776, at 27 degrees of Capricorn. So we already hit that in 2022, but since Pluto moves pretty slowly, it's been moving forward and retrograding, hanging around this return energy. And I think a lot of people are feeling it, that, you know, there's been some light shed on what this country needs. And when you think about it, this is only our first Pluto return. Like, the United States is a pretty young country. If we would put Pluto in like dog years, we're probably just coming out of like a toddler phase. And some of the foundation that we've laid needs to get rocked a little bit, and it needs to change. It needs a makeover. It needs to be dismantled, or it just needs an upgrade. So that can be really scary. Change is hard. It's scary. I know I was, just in a networking group earlier this week where we talked about really that quote of, the only thing that's constant is change. And Pluto is here to change and shake things up for us as it moves into Aquarius. So now that you understand from the astrology perspective that we're moving on to kind of a new cycle, another new 20 years, the next babies who are going to be born are in that new generation with Pluto in Aquarius, I urge you to contemplate and think back over these past 16 years, 2008 to 2024. What has changed for you? What have you been through? If you're wondering how Pluto has affected you on an individual level these past 16 years, it's really helpful to take a look at what house Pluto was transiting. For example, it was transiting my Capricorn in my 6th house, which is the house of health and wellness and the house of service work. I'm reflecting back on all the times that it conjunct my natal Neptune and Uranus and Saturn, and all of those dates, I made big life-changing decisions, like moving to a different country or switching jobs into a completely different field. Because all of that energy in the house of service, I started and quit a lot of companies and a lot of industries. And the rebirth part of that is that it led me to entrepreneurship, where I have the freedom to lead a heart-centered business, where I have the freedom to set up my offerings, whether that is in real estate or as a human design reader or as a channel or in this podcast. I'm able to have a service-based business. And yes, you can do that as an employee too. Just didn't work for me. I would also say that it did a number on my health and wellness, but I'm still trying to figure out if that was Pluto and Capricorn in my 6th house, or the fact that I have a very defined human design chart with a completely open spleen center in human design. And the spleen center governs your health and wellness. So especially when I worked in the fitness industry in a gym where I was having other people's auras around me all the time, I don't think I was very good at deciphering when I was picking up their ailments or illnesses. I didn't have a good energy clearing practice during that time. So yeah, that's also, the realization of, even though I have a very defined human design chart with my completely open spleen and my completely open heart center, I think it's really important for me to actually retreat. And not to mention that I have a 2-line in my profile as well. It's really important for me to retreat often, to be in my own energy. And I worked a lot of service jobs during that time, like managing a cafe, where I was just completely depleted all the time, because I wasn't just providing good customer service. I was feeling people's energy and reflecting it back to them and trying to make their day, because I enjoy a service type business. So anyway, Pluto will now be on November 19th, moving into the sign of Aquarius. So pay attention to that if you're listening to this beforehand or after. How have things changed since November 19th? If you're listening to this beforehand, pay attention. Are there any big events happening? Because since it moves so slowly, when it leaves these late degrees, like the 29th degree, oftentimes that exasperates things. Like when it just moved into Capricorn and we had the financial crash in 2008. I know a lot of people are predicting some type of economic crash here soon. So maybe that'll be the shoe that drops. But this is not something to be afraid of. Because what I love about astrology is when big things happen in the collective, even though it can create fear, you can at least explain that it matches the astrology, like I said in the beginning. That honestly makes me feel like there's a higher reason and purpose for this happening, that spirit has our back and that we can let go of control or gripping the wheel and trust a little bit that Pluto moving into Aquarius is happening for a good reason. So the end of 2024 might feel heightened. It might feel like a swoop of change of energy or things happening on kind of a bigger collective stage that make you feel a little fearful, but hang on tight. Just like in 2008, the energy was big. Perhaps when Pluto moves into Aquarius, the energy will be big with Aquarian themes. So what are the Aquarius themes? Aquarius is all about community, technology, innovation, freedom, and humanitarian ideals. It cares about the collective. This Pluto transit through Aquarius is going to accelerate and innovate, particularly areas of technology like AI and virtual reality. And it will also raise deep ethical questions about how technology plays a role in our society, like our privacy and human rights. Aquarius is also about collective empowerment and reforming traditional systems. It's definitely more of a futuristic energy. And I'll say it's an air sign. So we may have felt more grounded before. This is something where we're going to have to hold on to our seats a little more. Pluto may inspire new ways of governing in Aquarius and new ways of organizing society, potentially moving away from a very centralized power where we're all under this one government to more of an inclusive, community-driven, and decentralized model. I know a lot of astrologers are predicting that perhaps we're going to have different currencies in the future in a more decentralized way, and that it will really give back the power to the people. And just feeling into kind of what's going on, no matter how you voted in this election, in any election across the United States, I think an area that we've really seen this as Pluto has dipped into Aquarius, went back and forth into Aquarius and Capricorn these past 2 years, is that the power to the people really has happened in regards to media. We've always only had the option of these big networks and mainstream media. And over these past couple of years with technology, people have really gotten to choose these people who are independent journalists or influencers who are, on YouTube or Substack or what have you, creating their own networks. That is going from a centralized place where we only had these few networks to choose from to a very decentralized place where all of these independent journalists or influencers are creating their own little community who's following them. So that's just one example of what it's going to look like with Pluto moving into Aquarius. Aquarius is also associated with universal truths and the higher mind. And Pluto's transit may inspire more people to explore alternative spiritualities or question dogmatic beliefs and seek new ways of understanding our place in the universe. There may be a rise in interest in energy work, astrology, metaphysical practices, or people just seeking deeper meaning, which, yay, that's exciting because I've already been interested in that for so long. And we've seen that these last few years of more people being open to astrology and human design, numerology, tarot, these following the moon. It's less woo-woo and definitely getting more common. Another aspect of Pluto being in Aquarius is the energy is really going to allow people to embrace their authenticity and individuality more. And this really lines up with what human design says about us moving into a more individual energy in 2027. So we've got this big shift. Pluto for the past 16 years being in Capricorn. Now, as we're pretty much stepping into 2025, in Aquarius for the next 20 years. also with that, we have human design moving into a new incarnation cross in 2027. So the Pluto into Aquarius, I feel like, is the baby step to like the big human design incarnation cross theme as well, which is also for another 200 some years. I don't have the exact number in front of me, but it's so interesting. It's such a wild time to be alive, you guys. And I know, I feel like this is oversaid in the spiritual industry, but your soul came here for a reason at this time. And I have to believe it. I have to have faith in that, because it feels like a very jarring time where my childhood was literally a completely different reality. There were no smartphones. We lived a very different life to now, especially once Pluto gets into Aquarius, and we'll talk about the not so good themes in a minute. Technology is only going to ramp up, and we're going to be in this very meta world, but it's up to you to ground yourself here on Earth and use that to your advantage and not get so caught up into it. So it's awesome. Aquarius is definitely more this futuristic energy. It wants everyone to live their best life in their most authentic way and follow that unconventional path. So that's so similar to moving into the new theme in human design, which is the cross of the sleeping phoenix, which is a very, very individual energy. Everybody really individualizing from these structures that we have built in the previous incarnation cross. And I'll do an episode sometime on that to really break it down. So personally, I find Pluto moving into Aquarius to be very exciting and hopeful for us on a collective level and an individual level, because this planet likes to come in and kind of shake things up in the beginning. And over these next couple of years, it will feel destabilizing as we get used to it. The systems that were built in not the best way or with not the highest consciousness during the Capricorn transit cannot stay here during Aquarius, at least in the form that they are. So everyone's bringing more awareness to these systems that are not healthy for themselves or their family or this earth. And they're going to need a makeover. They're going to need to be either taken down or rebuilt. And what a good call of action as we move into this energy to remember that you are a sovereign being. You can critically think for yourself, and you have your truth and what's true for you. AI is going to be even more popular, and there's going to be even more information online feeding people who are taking it in. And that's one of the shadow sides of Pluto and Aquarius, is our over-reliance on technology. It could also intensify social divisions, which I know we're kind of getting a preview to right now, because while Pluto is pushing for collective progress, which means change, we know on a human level, many of us are resistant to change, and that will potentially divide us a little bit more before we're able to come together again. And when we layer on top, what does this mean for you individually? You are looking at what house Pluto is transiting. And when you find that out, what do you feel Pluto is going in there to transform? Knowing that you have the flavor of Aquarian energy, which is this innovator doing it the way no one else has ever seen it done before, who cares about humanity and the collective and is a bit futuristic. How is that going to shake up the house that it is in for you over the next 20 years? I'm super hopeful and excited that this is just one more astrological transit that is meant to happen, because we can't fix the world alone, but we can collectively when we stay in a higher vibration, when we stay in trust, love, and happiness, joy, and compassion. And this is a reminder that even though in the beginning, Pluto will feel like it's upending things, it will eventually bring us so much more innovation in regards to the environment, technology, social structures, and our rights as people. And what I'm most excited to see is for people to really embrace their authenticity and individuality, especially as people learn their human design and their astrology and just how incredibly different they are from anybody else in the world. And that if they shine out their light in the way that spirit or the universe or God wants them to shine it out, it's going to help us innovate and bring that Aquarian energy forward so much more. So let me know what questions you have about Pluto moving into Aquarius. I would love to answer any and all of them for you. I feel like such a nerd about it. And now I kind of want to pivot and tell you a story and update you, because I know I've told my story about buying a home. I am here. I am in my new home. I am completely exhausted. I moved at the beginning of November, so just 2 weeks ago. And of course, the manifesting generator in me with all this. So, I have the 34 gate really strong in my chart, which is the gate of the power of the great. It's this individual energy that at a shadow level can really force things. I can really just like power through things. At the gift level, it's strength, like inner strength, but I definitely have been using it at the shadow level. Just so I'm completely exhausted, but I cannot believe how grateful I am that the universe pushed me to move way sooner than I expected to, even in the first 2 weeks of sleeping here in a much quieter area out of the apartment complex that I was in. And don't get me wrong, I loved it there. I was feeling very sentimental about leaving. It was my in between space of moving out of my house last year. But I needed this. I needed to be here. I needed to be in this home where it's like totally quiet and my own. And even though it's a mess right now and I'm still organizing, as a manifesting generator does, I'm like painting a wall instead of continuing to move my stuff. So now I'm going to pivot and share a story with you that's pretty magical. And I'm excited to share this because this is really how I kicked off Ordinary Magic, which was just wanting to share with you guys like all the magical things that were showing up for me if I paid attention to it. And that's what I want for everyone, is to be able to have angel numbers or ask for a sign and then see it and be aware of it and all those things. And to be honest, this past year has been incredibly, incredibly hard for me. In fact, these past 4 years have been so hard and isolating for me. And I really do look at the spiritual experience or the awakening, once you have it, as a curve. Like in the beginning in 2015, it was so fun and exciting. Like it was so cool to feel my energy body, to have these like random metaphysical experiences with my dad who had passed away. And then I really, have been going for it, but it also really upended and changed my life. And I'm sure my life would have changed no matter what, even if I was still, very much not connected to my spirit and my soul. But it's been jarring. It's been really hard. And it's only way I know how to explain it is like I have gate 55 in my top 4 gifts, which in Gene Keys, that is the energy of freedom. I have been reflecting back on my childhood and just how crazy free I was and how wild I was and how much my soul needs that. And I just think, we kicked it off in 2020. We're living here in this earth plane of rules and regulations. And I did not feel free. It was incredibly isolating. And then 2021, I gave birth and I had postpartum, and that was isolating. I mean, I don't even know. It's probably things I still need to process yet, but it was so lonely and isolating. And then this past year, I moved out of my house just a year ago. The house I gave birth in, ended my marriage, lost that relationship, that, best friend I had, completely changed my world, right? And went through a divorce. Meanwhile, parenting, I just turned 3-year-old and now bought a house. I mean, it is just, I'm just saying this as like, if you've been having a similar experience, if your rose-colored glasses from your spiritual awakening are off and you're actually like, holy shit, maybe I actually preferred just getting drunk every weekend. Like, I feel you. I just want to like really bring the human into it. Like, I feel you. I have been so jaded this past year of even the spiritual industry of love and light and people not really paying attention to what's going on in this world, because all my friends and family are caught in it still. And I want to help them. And I'm caught in it. And so with all that being said, I'm about to share a magical story with you to bring it back to magic. But before that, I want to say that this will be my last episode for a little bit. I am going to take a break. I have been in very masculine do survival mode this whole past year in regards to running my business, making sure I'm making enough money now and on one income, family for my daughter, to get a house again for her, like all these things. I want to really step back into more of the feminine energy of receiving. And there's only one way to do that, and that is to organize, simplify and slow down my life. With, also being in real estate, this is the perfect time of the year to do that. So I really, really appreciate all of you guys, all of my listeners, everyone who has ever told me they listened to this episode or given me support on Ordinary Magic. Like, it means the world to me. And I am going to take a short break, and I will be back. I promise you, with much more creative clarity of how I can help everyone traverse this time, everybody understand what the hell is going on from an energetic perspective, from a spiritual perspective, because I really do believe that your soul chose to be born here at this time during this great shift here on earth. And I want to support everyone possible that I can understand it, because I've always been a seeker of understanding what's going on. I've always not understood the status quo. I never understood, like, oh, we're just going to go to college and then we're going to work for a boss for 40 years and then retire. Like, it never made sense to me. And honestly, it's taken the whole 2008 to now for me to get to this place of knowing what my service work is meant to be. So thank you, Pluto and Capricorn. Okay, so on to the magical story. I kicked off Ordinary Magic with talking about a very magical story with just real estate, with a deal I did when I found a card on the ground, lucky number 7, like a playing card. And I told the agent about it, who was representing the buyer at the time. I think it was the buyer or seller. I can't remember. And she was like, oh my God, that's my lucky number. Like, it was this really beautiful story. So I buy this house. I move in 2 weeks ago. And the first thing I wanted to do when I brought my first load of boxes over to the house, for some reason, I felt the need to pull the stove away from the wall, because, it's like the grossest area. I wanted to clean behind the stove. That was the very first thing I wanted to do. So I was on the ground scrubbing the tile behind the stove, and I'm looking at the stove, and I knew this was a new stove, but it was like a used one. The seller had bought a new one. This was previously tenant occupied. So he bought a new used stove. So I bent down. I'm like, what is in this stove? When you can stick your hand in the bottom of the stove around the corner, there were like these cards in the stove. So I stick my hand in there. I pull out 3 tarot cards. 3 tarot cards out of this. This is literally the first hour that I'm in this brand new house, and I pull out 3 tarot cards. I kicked off 2024 with getting a tarot journal and learning tarot for the very first time. And I bought a tarot journal that did 3 card pulls, 3 card spreads. And here in my new house, the universe said, here you go. Here's a 3 card spread. How wild is that? And right away, and what's so interesting is they're like animated cards. Like, they're not your typical tarot deck. They're so cool. And they're like all bent and stuff. It's so crazy. It's wild to me. And one of the cards out of these 3 is the exact same card that I pulled at the very beginning of this year. One energy to represent my entire year. And let me tell you, when I kicked off this year and pulled this specific card, I hung on to that through whenever I had a hard time, through my divorce, whenever. It was like a reminder to me all the time of what I needed to hold on to. And that was the Strength card. So I'm going to read to you a little bit about what the Strength card means. The Strength card speaks to the inner strength and the human spirit's ability to overcome any obstacle. Strength is about knowing you can endure life's obstacles. You have great stamina and persistence, balanced with underlying patience and inner calm. You are committed to what you need to do, and you go about it in a way that shows your composure and your maturity. The Strength card gives you confidence to overcome any growing fears, challenges, and doubts. Feel the fear and do it anyway. If you've been going through a rough time and are burnt out or stressed, the Strength card encourages you to find the power within yourself to persevere. You guys, what is the chance of that? That the card I pulled at the beginning of this year, oh my God, I'm getting emotional, was this, it's on a classic tarot deck, it's this queen who has her hand like petting a lion's head or in front of a lion's head. And it's like the strength is this inner strength. Like, I'm going to be strong, but in a very feminine way. I got this. So I moved in over that weekend, and I really did want to have a little ceremony with my house. And so that Saturday, I decided to take the 3 cards and to pull them like a spread. So I shuffled them. I'm like, okay, I'm going to pull past, present, and future. So I did that. I did the spread. And the first card I pulled, which is a different one, is my past. And it's the Chariot, which is so fascinating because the Chariot is also about strength. The Chariot card is about willpower, determination, and strength. And I'll read this for you. You have discovered how to make decisions in alignment with your values. And now you are taking action on those decisions. When the Chariot appears in a tarot reading, take it as a sign of encouragement. You have set your objectives and are now channeling your inner power with a fierce dedication to bring them to fruition. When you apply discipline, commitment, and willpower to achieve your goals, you will succeed. The Chariot is an invitation to draw upon your willpower and home in what's essential to you so you can push past the obstacles in your way. The Chariot calls you to assert yourself and be courageous, be bold in expressing your desires and laying down your boundaries. So the Chariot card is it's another strength card, but it's like more of the masculine. It's like, I'm going to do this. Let's go. Like strength, right? And then the card that I pulled for my present is the Cups and the Ace of Cups. And I just love this message as well for the present. As I just said to you guys that I would like to take some time to retreat a little bit. I have that option to do that. And this Ace of Cups really feels like it matches that. So the message from that one is now is the perfect time for you to open your heart and experience the rich flow of emotion available to you right now. You are more receptive to creative opportunities, loving connections, and deep compassion for other living beings. As with all aces in the tarot, this card comes as an invitation. Will you take it? Will you say yes to divine love and compassion? Will you run with it? The Ace of Cups carries the potential for spiritual and emotional fulfillment, but only if you embrace it with an open heart. This card often appears in tarot readings when you are open to creative expression, especially when you can allow your emotions to shine through your endeavors. You may be inspired to start a new project, take an art class, or even engage in interpretive dance. Okay, these are just examples of what this Ace card means, which is it's so fascinating because what I want to retreat back to do is to allow all these creative ideas I have to come forward. And the fact that it says I can start to really create and feel through my emotions, I've been contemplating so much lately that in my human design chart specifically, my root center is connected to my emotional center. And then I have a split. So I'm an emotional being. I always feel the pressure to emote. I also know that my service, 6th house in astrology, and my 10th house mission, the house of mission, those are my strongest houses in astrology. And my 10th house of mission has Mercury in it and my moon, and I'm supposed to be speaking. So anyway, I really do feel like either I'm supposed to be emoting alone to bring creative projects forward or just speak with emotion, or maybe a bit of both. So anyway, that was my message for the present. And then the future was the strength card, that inner strength, the quiet strength that matches the same card I pulled at the beginning of this year out of, I think there's 75 cards in a tarot deck. Like, how magical. How freaking magical. And normally I get so excited and my, like, I feel all this like magical buzzing, but to be honest, I'm so tired and depleted that I didn't even, at the time I was just like, oh, wow, that's cool. I think I told like 2 friends about it. But there you go, guys. This is a reminder for you to talk out loud to the universe, whatever your practice is. If you practice with, believing in God, or you call it source or the creator, or you just your higher self, your angels, your guides, whatever you call these things. The part of the spiritual industry that I'm kind of like recontemplating is I'm so done on anything dogmatic of what it's meant to look like. And I am so ready for each individual to make that up themselves. Like, if it's just your higher self that you're always communicating with, great. That's the umbrella of all your guides and galactic beings and all these people out there. I love learning about all that stuff. But to me, sometimes that's a distraction. Our souls came here to have a physical experience. All the spiritual texts talk about the fact that we are eternal beings. After this human form, we go back into our spirit form. I'm chatting with my loved ones who've passed away. I feel their spirits. They feel completely different than their personalities here on earth. They are an energy. They are a spirit form, and that's what you are. But we need to bring it back to like, okay, but if your soul chose here to be in a physical human form, what did it choose to be here for? And I know for me, it definitely chose to experience my physical body. That's always been something I've been incredibly interested in, whether it was bodybuilding in my earlier 20s or fasting, or I just loved being pregnant and doing labor and delivery. That was so fascinating to me to feel all the changes in my body. And so after a very hard year and my health, I was sick more than I can count. I'm so excited to gain my strength back, to go mountain biking, to dance again, to just feel more energized. And so I'm definitely putting that first and foremost. And the offerings that I've been contemplating to bring to you guys is I want everyone to feel so incredibly energetically healthy. And that includes being physically healthy. That includes sleeping well, but it also includes being able to come back to your center. Because as Pluto moves into Aquarius, into an air sign, when we have so many other of the outer planets now moving into air signs as well, which I'm a Gemini sun. I'm so used to this being so all over the place, like totally airy and not super grounded. We have to bring ourselves back to center. We need to know what our baseline is for our energetic health and make that the standard. And that includes putting the right food in your body, having clean water and being hydrated, sleeping well, being in nature, grounding your body, like all those things. And so, I'm excited to come back after my break and really bring either information forward or meditations, practices, ways for you to also feel your body, because we're stepping into a time when it is going to be incredibly important for you to know what your truth is, for you to know what your authenticity is, for you to know what your soul came here to express and what your soul came here to do. And in order to do that, you need all of your other needs met. You need to be in tune with your heart, your center, your core, your higher self. And it's not that hard. I think we're overcomplicating it. We just have to make it a practice. So that's what I have for you guys. I am wishing you all the best, wishing you an amazing rest of your 2024. And I can't wait to chat again. Okay, take care. Hey, magical beings, are you ready to connect deeply with your soul and uncover your true purpose and path? It's Dayna from Ordinary Magic, and I have 2 special offerings just for you. With my human design readings, you'll discover your unique blueprint and learn how to live in harmony with your true nature. And through my soul alignment sessions, we will connect to your higher self and your spirit team to gain profound clarity and deeper connection to your soul's essence. So whether you're facing life's challenges or simply need an energetic tune-up, book your session today and let's embark on this magical journey together. Visit my website at daynafaye.com. Ordinary Magic is a Lit Path Studios production, produced by Jamie Gale and Dayna Faye. Music is by Shane Ivers. Until next time, I wish you many powerful moments of ordinary magic.